Yeat is one of the most interesting and most popular new rappers of the 2020s decade. He has quickly put out an expansive catalog of albums and mixtapes. I'm gonna go ahead and rank all of those projects in order and tier list them for you guys all in one video today. I appreciate all the support on my socials. If you guys could, please subscribe to both of my channels here on YouTube. Join the Frosty Flock over on Discord and Twitch, and you're not in the Frosty Flock if you didn't follow the Twitch yet. Make sure you do. Now that that is out of the way, here's why Yeat is the best rapper of the 2020s decade. This is actually the Yeat mixtape that I most recently listened to just the other day in order to make this video. I was pretty surprised to see that I was missing out on a lot of alien-like beats from the Alive series, and also that earlier Yeat music showed me how good he really was back then when he was working with completely random producers like 2have, T99, CGM Beats, and just a lot of producers that you wouldn't see Yeat work with today. I ended up liking almost every single song. I wouldn't say the highs are incredibly high on this project, but it certainly ranked a lot closer to Pharrell than I thought it was going to. On the song Ecstasy, he gives a shout out saying, "I feel like Lil Uzi," which you can see a lot of his influence along with Young Thug, who gets mentioned on this project as well. This project does have a fiery start with Always Alive and then Tonka, but OXY, Every Sunday, Wavy Crazy also are some of my favorites, and this was usually Yeat in typical fashion back then, finding different ways to rap about how he just loves his money or how people and other rappers are already copying his styles. Alive has plenty enough good songs for me to put it in that B good tier for this video, and it avoids the mid section. This is where the kid from the Portland and California area would find some buzz on songs like Money Twerk and Sorry About That for the first times. A lot of fans still to this day, because of eras like this, still love Yeat with Tragic, one of his all-time best producer duos he's ever had. Around these early times is when Yeat also seemed to connect with Benny X on tracks like Farilli being one of my favorites off the project. I feel like this project in the backwards hat era of Yeat is a time where you can just throw on pretty much any Yeat song and have a lot of fun with it, yes, but also be mainly carefree when you listen to this stuff, you know, in the real world, out in your day-to-day. On Teslas and Rovers, Mountain Climbers, he just finds his flow and pockets a lot better, and these songs, in my opinion, are a lot better than some of those tracks off of Alive, despite this project having over 5-6 skips for me. Pretty much tied with Yeat's Alive album. I'm gonna put Pharrell in the same tier, in the good tier. I got a whole lot of money coming in. They tell me it's a couple that's waiting outside, so don't bring 'em in. Now this is where a lot of hip-hop fans and a lot of the scene found out about Yeat. He's linking up with Drake, so that gave him, you know, a big boost on Instagram and everything, which fast forward today to see them have a couple songs together, and then also to see, you know, Drake still bringing out Yeat, you know, overseas in Europe in the last month almost like 5 times is just so cool. But leading up to the release of Up To Me, I remember right before that tape drop, everyone was reacting to this viral moment with the bell. We're on Yeat's single Get Busy, this bell just hits and it becomes this iconic moment for Yeat that people are just addicted to. This song already was turned, but here's a bell. And with the release of this mixtape, boom, Yeat is instantly the newest hot artist on the block, the new fresh rapper that a lot of people want to tap into. And a lot of that had to do with his style, which was famously the turban, which was another music video that was going insane at the time. .com Nirvan had a lot of crucial music videos he directed during this time. At basically the beginning of that year, we got Cardi's Whole Lotta Red album, which had a lot of influence, I feel like, to the underground scene, going into the rage wave. And at this time, there was a new underground movement that had people like Filthy producing for Yeat on Got Rich, and that's where some of those comparisons were made. I didn't even really see much of those Cardi Yeat comparisons, I guess, early on. Yeat always sounded like his own thing to me. And very quickly, with the help of TikTok, songs like Money So Big would start to go viral and get some buzz along with some other sounds. Trendy Way is easily one of my favorites. We were introduced to Yeat's kind of sidekick and partner, September's Rich, who had some songs with him. You'd see him up on stage with Yeat or in a lot of his videos. I love love the Breaking Bad meth bar on that track, because at that time, that's when I was watching Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul and everything at the end of high school for the first time ever, really. The rest of the track list is just full of Yeat classic hits like Ya Ya or You Can Tell, Stay the Same, Told Ya. Those are also some other songs that certainly need mentioned off this track list. You can really pick a lot of them off of here. I hope my rating of this album doesn't get too controversial the more this video goes on, but Up To Me is gonna go in the amazing tier, which is my A tier. Going into the next year and into 2 Alive, I didn't need a couple listens to get used to this project or get used to Yeat's voice anymore. Right away, I knew 2 Alive was it, and that project really excited me when it dropped. The rollout and single right before this project release included Still Countin', which again had a rage beat, but it also had one of the last powerful Lyrical Lemonade and Cole Bennett cosigns, I feel like, when he had this iPhone video series he was shooting at the time. I thought that video was gas, and when we got the full track list for 2 Alive, we were finally able to see he was getting those cosigns and those big mainstream features and collabs, whether it was Outside with Young Thug, ends up being like one of his best really duos ever, which is amazing because obviously Yeat was inspired by him a lot, and Gunna as well was on Rax Got Me. That one still hits to this day. Of course, Gunna and Young Thug won't be seen on the same project anytime soon, but it's moments like this on 2 Alive where they both feature on it that I will miss of their falling out. When he started off this album with Poppin', that song was insane and was going viral right away when it dropped. Taliban's great on there. Callin' Me, Smooktober, On The Line, all of those tracks are goated. There was a lot of great replay value in this album, but at this point it was very clear for this album that Yeat was signed to Zach Bia's Field Trip Records. He was starting to get more and more popular as he was signed up for his first ever 2 Alive tour, and having Uzi pop out at your first tour is not a bad thing at all. This album for me for the longest time has always just edged out Up To Me. It also has a couple less skips on the project for me, being 2 less songs, and for that reason I gotta also put it just barely in front of Up To Me in the A tier, the amazing tier. It was certainly a good time for Yeat to capitalize and drop more music for his fans at this time, and that included a couple Lil Uzi Vert features. I actually have always preferred Big Tonka over 3G. Those have always been the best off of the Geek Pack, because at that time those Uzi collabs were nuts. We should have got that Pink Life collab EP or just at least a couple more songs from them. They have famous leaks like Crash That Bitch, but it was just something that maybe was too good to be true, and now we just in 2025 can't get any collab with them because Uzi doesn't show up with the video shoot. I really like that Love Money off this project with Lancey wasn't this overproduced collab. To me, Dub was always one that had one of those TikTok moments. Hey, where the private man? I'm speeding on these perks like I'm a laundromat. I've never been like too excited for that song or a song like Money So Big in his catalog. It feels like something that Yeat kind of just has to have on his set list. There's a lot of Bugs Ronan tracks produced on here. I like the waviness of Way Back, but overall Geek Pack never excited me as a project. I never went back to it a ton. It does have, you know, another skip or two on there. And when you look at 2 Alive, that main album that's kind of attached to it just was never on par to those 20 tracks. It's kind of insane to think that in a year span, April 1st to April 2nd, Yeat managed to drop like 6 different projects in 1 year. The hard work absolutely has paid off, and I kind of understand fans being biased towards these times in 2021, 2022, because it was an insane era. It was also where he was his most active and dropping the most. But for me, Geek Pack has always been at the bottom of my Yeat ranking, and I'm gonna have to just put it above the mid tier, but at the bottom of the B tier in the good tier. You know it's this. Take a perk and it's hooking it. Money swallowing like this. Yeat was not done having an insane 2022 because really the best thing he could have done at this time was lock in and make finally a shorter project. Talk was this huge single with Benny X that debuted, you know, at one of his highest spots ever on Billboard for a single. It literally samples fans in the street to Yeat's Shut Down LA show early on in 2022. I still think he did that on purpose to show how many people he could get in the streets and show how much motion he had by overpacking a venue that night in LA, but it was certainly an historic moment for his career. Half of these songs, he just finally really connected with Benny X like he was the Splash Brothers. It was like Prime Curry and Klay Thompson, they were just not missing on songs. Like Killin' 'Em is extremely overlooked at the end of the track list, but What It Feel Like, or just that beat without the way, it sounds like it's doing his own thing and, you know, talking on its own because how good that beat is. It's iconic.
Listen.
But then you have Flawless, which I don't care. This is still one of Yeat's best intros, or has some of his best beat drops, and this is a song that he performs also some of the best as well, because the way, you know, it's all set up after, you know, the intro to the song. But it's again provided by an amazing Uzi verse, and I think that's probably my favorite song by, you know, him and Uzi. I think it might always will be. When you're driving high speeds to Up Off X and Crank, like, you just feel this adrenaline in your body. This was a very legit body of work from Yeat. You could see his sounds kind of changing by the time he got to Life. It was a great way to end his 2022. I'm gonna go ahead and put Yeat's Life project into the A tier, but the highest of the amazing tier so far. This was always the hardest album for me to understand and properly rank for Yeat. I've certainly always enjoyed this project, and it felt like he was building off of the Life series even more, and building off those darker Benny X kind of beats and sounds we had. Around Life and Afterlife, he really figured out those background vocals and how that will help complement his music and add more layers to it. And adding more layers to his music and production, all of that, you could see here in Afterlife. There's a couple skips for me, whereas the back half of the album is not as strong as the first half for me. But without a doubt, songs like Heavyweight, Better Off, Rage Party, Bad Bend, also my favorites. These beats are just absolute punches, and they sound great in the car. The only time I've seen Yeat live, and I went to go see him in Denver, was on the Afterlife tour. He came back in 2023 to tour again. He upped his visuals, he upped his performance, and there was just so many songs from these last couple years that I had to go and see live for the first time ever. It was a great experience. I will say the cover art with the skeleton might be his best cover art, one of the coolest he's done, that's for sure. I also remember around that time when I had kind of like taken edibles and stuff for the first time. I was in my basement shooting pool with my buddy, and we were laughing this night so bad, bro. Like, I could not stop laughing about whatever we were talking about. I felt like I was turning into the cover of this song, and this is all happening while that Now song, you know, with Lil Geeky featured on the project is playing, and so that's kind of my memory of this album a little bit. But Benny X has some tearjerkers on here that he produced with Yeat on the live drums of Myself, one of his most beautiful, well done outros. I mean, there's some absolute highlights on this project for me. I seriously don't want to disrespect it saying it is rated, you know, too low, you know, in my video. I also know that this project is like a fan favorite. A lot of Yeat fans put this in their top 3. I think it could be up there for me. I'd move it up higher if this project was just condensed a bit and a little bit shorter. I know you could say that about a couple Yeat projects. I don't want to be too nitpicky, but this might be the one where I'll say it the most, that I wish it was a couple tracks shorter, and I might flip this up to that top 3 position. But for now, kind of like I was just explaining, I gotta put Afterlife towards the bottom of the A tier, the amazing tier, behind a couple of the other albums I just talked about. 2093 was my most anticipated Yeat album ever, and I love the trailers we got that were kind of made by AI, but were still intended to put you in the future, or were mysterious enough to intrigue you on what was going on with this rollout, because Yeat wasn't joking when he said he's gonna literally take you to the future.
Welcome to 2093, where Lifestyle Corporation's state-of-the-art surveillance is your friend.
When you open it up, it's very intimidating with 24 tracks, or it can be a record that is kind of split the fan base in half because of the way it sounds and the direction he ended up going. But to me, it ends up being his most well put together masterpiece of his career. And I certainly think it has the best like experience and production, mixing, ideas, all of that. Yeat is kind of playing and rapping from the perspective of this CEO, this character he's playing, where he's standing out looking above all the buildings of the city, the world that he owns and runs. When we dive into the track list, it was kind of cool to me to see Yeat only get respect and only put legends like Lil Wayne on Lifestyle on there, or Drake on As We Speak, or Future on Stand On It, which is one of the few critiques on the album for me. I wish Future just sounded a little bit clearer, you know, in that mix. But songs like Psycho CEO, Breathe, You Should Know, all these songs just sound like Yeat is confident, his voice sounds elevated, everything on this album sounds very grand. The true test, and I really think one thing that proves how great this album's quality is songs like If We Being Real, months after this album release, blowing up on TikTok. Typically a lot of Yeat songs that blew up on TikTok, like the Minion stuff or Money So Big, are songs that have a little bit of a recipe to kind of hook you in, but not this song. This is slower, it has a heavier industrial kind of feel to it, and it's still blowing up because how good it really is. And there's a couple of moments like that on this record. Bought the Earth, and then 1093, the outro, yes, is Yeat's best outro in his catalog, I will say that. You gotta give your props to everyone he worked worked with on this project. You know, Synthetic we'll see more of and talk about in a second, but it was really Starboy, Out of Town too, and a couple others that helped produce on songs like Breathe, and then also that middle section of the album where he really gets into that rave, bouncy feel of the project from like 14 to 17 on the track list. And you certainly got to give, you know, him credit for being there on a lot of Yeat projects over the years and having a lot of influence in his own music and also with a lot of these mainstream rappers in the Rage era or people that have came from this era. Even one of my favorites, Trippie Redd, he produced for back on, you know, Trip at Night. Without a doubt, I absolutely all around just have to give the first S tier of this video to 2093 and put it up there in the perfect tier. This to me was one of the most overhated albums that came out in 2024. I feel like Yeat made Lifestyle and put this out for the fans that were confused or didn't understand or didn't like 2093, and he was catering to those OG Yeat fans or people who wanted that former trap style and everything. So what he did is brought back those blaring, just looped beats, rage stuff once again, a lot of, again, synthetic production, and despite having life in the title, it didn't fully sound like it was really a part of that series. He put Lil Durk on his other song called Lifestyle that he put out, had him going off. Get another Don Toliver collab after having already a couple last year. I think at that time they had put out their best song together, New High, but all I see is just straight hate for that song, which I just don't understand because that beat and everything just makes me want to dance. I thought they had good performances, but like doing a video with Summers on Go to Work, like I still bump that song a lot, and to see them together in 2024 was so cool to me because it was almost like he was helping out Summers in a way, keeping his name and relevancy there a little bit, putting him on such a big project. Even though this project was kind of boosted with album sales bundles to get it to that #1 position, it fell off the charts and got disrespected so quickly because of that. And I feel like after months of people seeing it performed live, finally getting to see songs like Orchestrate performed live, people started to realize and turn their heads a little bit more after re-listening to this project. And it got help as well from things like Fortnite adding a Geek Time emote to their game that helped people turn their heads as well. The Costas, Lying for Fun, God Talking Shh, like these are all songs that I feel like no one is talking about, but they're such quality Yeat performances. There's so many songs that come on that just get me turning up and excited. We also got some of those A Dangerous Life teasers incorporated throughout the album's track list where he really switched up the production and showcased what the album's gonna do at the end of Fate, which that whole part just sounds heavenly. But then Forever Again, shout out to Sapir, he's been locking in with him probably for ADL a lot. Forever Again has crack in it. That was like one of my most played songs of last year. In general, a lot of trap albums like Lifestyle, you know what you're getting and you know what to expect. Like Jack Boys 2, for instance, most recently, you don't have to expect or, you know, get a masterpiece every time with some of these projects. Sometimes it's just, you know, fine to take your songs, say it's good, and move on. Lifestyle to me just edges out a couple projects in the amazing tier. I know it's gonna be crazy to discuss everything that's been going on in the A tier today, but I seriously don't have any skips on this project.
I need you like now. I need you to pull up, give me face right now.
To see Yeat come around this year and drop another one of those 30-minute, you know, 11, 12 track type of projects again was just perfect for me this summer. He was giving us not only some of the best songs of the summer in hip hop, but across all genres, and also some of the best songs I feel like he's ever made. It's been really cool to see a lot of people celebrate this project, enjoy a lot of the songs off of it, and it's so cool to see how well this project has performed despite it just being 11 tracks and then selling better than what a lot of rappers can do with a full album. And he did this all without making a big deal about it and just posting a billboard and not really having much other of a rollout. I want to say every single song in this album is on repeat, but that's just how this EP's been. It was a little bit too late with me moving everything last month to get to a tier list, but tracks like Come and Go, he just does different stuff with his vocals and you just see the improvement in two-tone. That now is the best Don Toliver collab. Amazing late night track. I'm Yeat is just absolutely so fun. He's been going in on his verses. He learned how to sing a little bit at times in 2025 and he's gotten so much better with Benny X. Benny X has shown his range, Yeat has shown his range, and I feel like he's with the right team, the right people to make these insane songs. He's now offering, you know, kids in a choir singing at the beginning of this on Put It On God, or the beat switches and the tempo changes and all that to Loco keep you very interested. I feel like he made something like Fly Night with Twigs just to try it out, and it was like the moment right now on this, you know, EP, throwaway kind of EP to do so. But he chose great collaborators in Saw Baby instead of just picking, you know, Lil Baby and other random artists artists that get overused for features all the time, and they actually feel like on MFU they work well together. Certainly couldn't do this whole video without talking about Growing Pains. If you look at all 10 projects he's had, this being the last song, the most recent kind of one we've heard, it's just perfect to describe the catalog and everything I've gotten to talk about in this video. That artist progression and artists like Yeat, they're so cool to me when you get to sit back and see them grow, and you get to see all their sounds change and the places they've gone in the last couple of years. Songs like this were just perfect to drop on this right now because I feel like he's also coming out of his shell. We used to see him with those turbans and the masks and all that back in the day a lot more, but now you could just see Noah. You see his hair, his personality, all that stuff come through. You know, him posting a lot more, doing content a lot more. I think he's a great person, and he's you know, warmed up to, I feel like, to the fame and a lot of the changes that have probably happened in his life in the last 5 years. But with the Dangerous Summer, no recency bias here at all. I gotta put this project up in the S tier, up in the perfect tier where I got a couple projects, and I'm liking how my tier list is looking. This is how I want everything to be right here as it is. I spent a lot of time re-listening to these albums, ranking them, really getting in and critiquing all the little moments and things I like about them. But Yeat has absolutely became one of my favorite rappers just ever, like, in the game right now. And this recent project, A Dangerous Summer, has inspired that. I'm excited to see where he goes next with A Dangerous Life. I think he's gonna go even crazier, save his best songs for that, and probably have one of his top 3 albums and at least one of his best produced albums, I could say that. You look at people in Opium like Ken Carson, Destroyed Lonely, and I just feel like Yeat has surpassed them in his catalog. Everything he's done creatively is on another level. He's a better rapper than those guys. You look at Sofago too, they're just not on the same level. We got Sofago trying to come back once or twice, and for Yeat it's just always been trajectory up and up and up, and that's why he's been, you know, one of my favorites. For me, he's going towards that Travis and Uzi conversation in his catalog, and he's already starting to pass people, and I'm ready to say he's passed people like Playboi Carti, mainly because some of these guys don't have enough albums, but also I feel like effort wise, skill wise, creatively, again, I feel like Yeat is just a lot more genius and is better than Carti. Let me know what you guys think of some of those takes right there, and let me know what you guys thought of the video and my tier list, the review, and all that. Subscribe to both of my channels. Make sure to like the video if you haven't already. Keep up to date with me on Twitter and Instagram. Join the Frosty flock, and also on Twitch. I'm going live over there a lot more. That's everything I gotta say. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Until then, peace.